Good afternoon, AFRO friends and family. My name is Alexis Taylor, and I am here today to talk about learning loss and recovery. So we know that we are in a pandemic right now, and so we wanted to bring to our readership today some experts in the education field to tell us what are some things that you can be doing at home to help your scholars recover. If you have any hesitation or any anxiety about teaching, what can you do in your own home? What are some skills and some tactics that you can be using at home to combat learning loss? All right. So our guest today, we have first Mr. Earl Martin Phalen of Phalen Leadership Academies. Welcome, Mr. Phalen. And we also have, thank you for being here with us today. We also have of Wise Teachings, Ms. Ternita Moore. Hello, Ms. Moore. Thank you for joining us. She's going to be giving parents some of those tools that you can be using at home to combat learning loss and help your scholars recover. Thank you for joining us. All right, so first we're going to go to Earl. Thank you, thank you. So Earl, can you tell us a little bit about Phalen Leadership Academies?
Sure. Phalen Leadership Academies, or PLA, it's a nonprofit network of currently 25 schools in multiple states and the District of Columbia, and we serve a little over 10,000 scholars. And what we try to do is partner with schools that are struggling a little bit and turn them into the places that we deserve and desire. And so we've been blessed to get 9 schools, from F and D rated schools to A and B rated schools, and we hope to do much more in the future.
All right, thank you for being here with me today. So my first question is, what is learning loss? When you think about learning loss, what are some of those things that come up? What are we really talking about with learning loss?
Sure, there's been a phenomenon for over 100 years called summer learning loss, and that's the issue that when children who have been going to school and making good progress, actually children from all economic strata make about the same progress during the school year, but children living in low-income communities generally lose 2 to 3 months of reading, writing, and math skills, and it's natural. If you practice something on a regular basis, you tend to get better at it, and if you stop practicing that thing, whether it's reading or writing or math, for 3 months during the summertime, you tend to get worse at that, and that goes with most things. And now we're experiencing, obviously, the impact of COVID, because learning hasn't been the same for many children since two Marches ago, 14 or 13 months ago. And so that has been learning interruption, and we're trying to get a handle on, some studies are saying children may have experienced as many as 2 years of loss during this COVID because of the hardness of teaching, or the troubles with technology, or distractions within the home, or all the other things that happen to our scholars and families during this very tough year. And some are saying the loss will be less, but certainly children have experienced learning loss, which is just a loss of skills that they had once mastered or should be mastering if they're going to have the academic strength to be proficient.
And so is this learning loss any different than what we've seen in the past when students go away for a summer break? Is it any different in this pandemic?
Yeah, I think it's been different on a few levels. The summer learning loss, the way the school is built, when you go back the next September or August, we review what we did the last month of school, right? So we're reviewing a previous standard, and we hope we can get you that kind of month quickly caught up and move you ahead. This has been not a 2 or 3 month period. This has been a 13, 14, and in some cases, maybe a 16-month period that children have had their learning interrupted. So that's been one of the differences, the length and intensity. I think the second difference is this period has been very emotionally hard on our children, and not every child, but for many of our children, it's been very hard for our scholars. You know, many are living in smaller apartments, multiple family members. Sometimes it's your dad, but sometimes it's your mom's boyfriend who you may or may not like. So there's just been a lot of social dynamics that have made this piece much harder than the traditional summer 2-month experience.
And so we talk a lot about learning loss, but a lot of social skills are taught to students when they're in skills. So is there a loss of socio-emotional learning as well?
There's been a massive setback. I mean, we've seen some of our scholars who were very, very shy and reserved when they first came to us in one of our middle schools out in the far east side of Indianapolis really came into themselves, could hold a conversation, could look you in the eye when they were talking, asked you about how you were doing and how you were feeling, and they've come back, and it's almost as if they've reverted back to where they were before. So the good news is they've shown that they can come out of their shell and grow and engage in that way, and they will again. We just have to be, I think a lot of people say, hey, let's get back to school and let's open up our books and get working on the reading, writing, and arithmetic. And we're kind of saying, well, wait a second. Let's make sure our scholars are okay first. Let's make sure they understand that our schools continue to be a safe place, a nurturing place, a loving place. Let them know that we miss them dearly during this time and that we're so happy that they're back. And let's make sure there's a lot of joy in the early stages. And obviously the academic piece is important and it has to go as a companion to it, but don't just dig into tutor, remediate. There needs to be care, concern, and love, like in any environment that children have had a tough year and adults have had a tough year.
Is it any different when it comes to the Black population of students? So is learning loss affecting us differently? Are we more at risk of having some learning loss? Are our students more at risk for that?
Yeah, I think it's certainly having an impact by income, and obviously Black and Latinx, Native Americans fall in the lower income classification more often than we should, and so it becomes a question of resources, right? So just to juxtapose, when we went out on March 19th, we went out of school and COVID had happened. My more affluent friends who have children basically said, well, we have a computer. My child has their own room. We have easy access to internet. We have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day and a snack. We have the backyard if somebody wants to go out and play or shoot a basketball and all those pieces. Well, many of our scholars, at least the scholars PLA serves, they didn't have all those resources. And so that's been the big impact. You think about school oftentimes being an important place for nutrition, school being an important place, as you mentioned, for love, social emotional growth, for identity formation, and school being a place for community, in addition to school being a place for academics. So you see all those things impacted, and that had a disproportionate impact on our people. Hey, Dr. Ferebee.
Hey, Earl. Good to see you, sir. It's been a while.
Good to see you too, brother. Good to see you too.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ferebee. So we have Dr. Ferebee here because as we're talking about learning loss, we're also going to be talking about learning recovery. And so we have Dr. Ferebee here. He is the Chancellor of DC Public Schools. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Ms. Moore. So Ms. Moore, I'm coming to you next. As far as that recovery piece that's so important. Like Mr. Phalen was saying, a lot of times the school year has built in it that review period for students when they come back. But what can students and their families be doing at home? What are some of these things that you may not know that you're doing already that you can actively reinforce? And I know we discussed little things like if you have a pizza, talk about fractions when you're divvying up that pizza and serving your family at dinner or lunch. What else can parents be doing as far as the recovery piece?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And again, it's good to see Earl.
Hold on, Dr. Ferebee. Hold on, Dr. Ferebee. Thank you. This question was for Ms. Moore. We're going to come to you.
You'll come to me now. All right.
Excited to answer. That's what we need. Yeah. Thank you.
I am a very big advocate for gameplay within the home. My program-wise teaching education program focuses on using games to encourage learning. So I think that anything you do can be incorporated into education as a learning tool. One thing I say is the kitchen is your favorite place in education. You can learn anything in the kitchen. And my favorite thing is fractions. When we have younger children, I like to use food because it's something they can touch and it's something that they can see. One of the things, as you mentioned, is the pizza. The pizza is my favorite because at that age, between that K through 4, their favorite thing is to talk about, it's not fair, it's not fair. And I incorporate that by making a pizza and cutting it. And once I cut the pizza, I always give myself the biggest piece. And then I give them this little small piece. And they look at me and go, well, that's not fair. And I say, oh, no,
Something's
but
not
this
right.
is mine. They said, that's not fair. I said, oh, okay. And I'll cut a little piece off, a little bit more, and give it to them. They'll say, but it's still not the same. And that's how I'll roll into the lesson of fractions. Fractions have to be fair. It has to be equivalent. If it's not fair, it does not work. And that allows them to see it and then relate to something. So when they encounter fractions in school, they think of that pizza that wasn't fair. So is this shape fair? Are the lines really equal on both sides? I also say cooking. Bananas are my favorite because I love banana pudding. And when you're younger, you can ask a child, do you like half a banana? And they say, yes. Okay, give them half. Oh, the next day, would you like a third of a banana? Yeah, give them a third. And then you'll notice that they'll say, well, yesterday I had a bigger piece. Yesterday you asked for a half. Today you asked for a third. And then we can go into the difference between a half, a third, and fourths. And that's incorporating it into learning into the home without realizing it. Our students will begin to learn, and then they'll take that into school and be able to use it as well. I'm big on games, so I have another game. We use Uno all the time. Uno is my favorite for math. You can use this to help with speed math. You put it down in every problem, you either add up the numbers that you're putting down or you can multiply those numbers. So if I put down a 2 and then the next student puts down a 2, then I want to ask 2 times 2 equals 4 and keep running the game to help boost their multiplication and addition skills. For older kids, I tend to try to include like gameplay. They have something called Amongst Friends. So with Amongst Friends, they're learning colors. If they're in Spanish, use Amongst Friends to teach them colors. Have them say their colors back to you in Spanish, first English. Have them say certain things of the words that are easy. These are words that they use all the time, but the Spanish language and the English language is so close that we can include that language in our learning without even realizing it. Games such as Battleship, using that to teach coordinate planes. Instead of just saying, hey, put your numbers down, make them cut it into fours and ask them, where's 1 and 2? Of x-axis and y-axis. The main goal is to use what's in the home and
Right, we're having a little bit
use
of
things that will engage the engagement is the biggest thing, and learning using things that they can touch and play is the biggest thing that I like to include in learning, and I think will benefit parents and take the stress of having a environment and turning it into a more fun.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Moore. We had a little bit of a glitch towards the end, but you gave us some really, really important information. Thank you. Mr. Phalen, how important is it to have that parent's confidence boosted as they're trying to do this? You were telling us that a lot of times resources play a part in learning loss, but how important is that parent when it comes to combating this?
Oh, well, I mean, the truth is parents are the most important teacher. And whether that's the parent just emphasizing that your education is the most important thing to me, whether it's that parent sitting down, we're not all, as adults, we're not all literate, but we can all sit down and pick up a book and make that a special time by looking at pictures and telling stories, whether it's creating raps or rhymes, whether it's just making sure that you're asking your child questions and your child is speaking to you in full sentences and you're engaged in conversations about a topic, whether that's something that you're watching together on TV. So parents emphasizing the importance of education and that I want you to work hard, and then parents being partners. I mean, one thing the pandemic has done is some schools and school districts really didn't see parents as partners. They kind of wanted the parents out of the way, and you couldn't reach kids if you weren't going to be willing to reach out to parents. And so I think one of the good things that's come is I've seen many more people become much more comfortable, teachers, administrators, and systems become much more comfortable with the notion that building a relationship with the parent to support collective goals for the child's success is key.
All right, for that. And if you are just joining us, welcome. We're talking about learning loss today. So as part of our Word in Black series, we are writing articles and we're doing live streams that relate to all things education during this pandemic. So learning loss has been something that has come up over the past year and a half. Parents at home becoming teachers, stepping into that role. And so the Afro-American newspapers wanted to give parents a boost today, some tips that you all can do at home to combat learning loss. We also have the Chancellor of DC Public Schools, Dr. Lewis Ferebee, here with us. So Dr. Ferebee, we're coming to you. What have you seen in your district as far as learning loss? What are some of the things that your teachers are doing in the classroom and in the virtual realm to combat learning loss and recover what has been kind of lost over the last year or so?
Yeah, thank you again for that question. I appreciate Ms. Moore's response about how parents can be supportive. So I think that point needs to be emphasized, is that we're in this together. I can't say enough about our families and their desire to be supportive at home with learning. We've seen the interest in our parent university grow exponentially, more families asking for academic ideas and tools, but also social emotional tools. You know, how do you help students cope? What are signs of trauma? What can be done at home to respond to that trauma? And so I think all those things come together, provides a real holistic and comprehensive approach of how schools and families can work to recover during this time period. Also, good to see my old partner in crime, Earl Phalen. He's doing great work in Indianapolis, where I had the pleasure of serving as superintendent with Phalen Leadership Academy. And I think Earl's point about, you know, not just going directly to the books and spending time to deepen relationships. You know, we had students come back to school and the teachers didn't even recognize them, right? They've grown, they've changed, and you know, they have this mask on now. And so I think we all need to ground in, like, we have to reconnect with one another, whether that's student to student and student to adult and adult to adult, and begin to repair and heal, and then start the teaching and learning process. And then finally, you know, I think we all should think about the terminology we use. There's two things that my staff and community have heard from me. One is learning loss is deficit minded, meaning that we lost something. I think we should be thinking about what we've gained, how we leverage what we've gained during this time period, and how do we use that to accelerate learning and social emotional development. And then secondly, you know, getting back to normal is not our goalpost. That normal was overrated. And the truth of the matter is, prior to COVID, everybody wasn't performing at expectation or at standard. And so our goalpost should be to come back better than normal through this recovery process and reimagine what's possible so that all students are excelling and achieving.
So can you tell us more about this parent university? What do parents have to do to get in? And what are some of the things that you all discuss in that university?
Yeah, just log on. So it's interesting. A lot of our work started last summer when we started to see rashes of police brutality. We started to see events across the nation that were really scary for young people and families. And we had parents coming to us like, how do I talk to my child about the George Floyd incident? You know, how do I help my child cope with not seeing their grandparents for months at a time? And we really started to then reach out to families like, well, what are the different topics that you need help with? And it, for some families, it's, you know, I have a child that has special needs, that has an IEP. You know, what can I do at home to help him or her be successful? I have a 3-year-old, 4-year-old in our pre-K program. You know, what are strategies that are developmentally appropriate for that age group? And so we compiled a number of topics that were important to families, and we scheduled these sessions different times of the day based on families' work schedules. So sometimes that's during the day, in the morning, or lunchtime, or evening. And then we took it further. So we're proudly leading the nation with home visits prior to COVID. And we created a new platform where we now do those home visits virtually. And we believe that those conversations one-on-one with families are very valuable in supporting families, but also keeping our relationship strong. So we've extended our parent university in that way. And then we've also asked parents to help us with recovery, and knowing that it doesn't have to look the same at every school, and it doesn't need to look the same way for every student.
All right, and you brought up a really important concept that we shouldn't be operating at a deficit with the learning loss. We should be focusing on that recovery. And so what are some of the things that you all are doing? Can you talk about the Acceleration Academies, the programming that you have coming up for families in DC?
Yeah, certainly. So, what we learned in this process is it's really critical that we lean into what we call our multi-tier system of supports. And that idea is you don't provide a one-size-fits-all approach to intervention and support, that you need to tier your supports based on the needs of your students. And so there's universal supports that are available to all students. Then we have our tier 2 support. So for our students in tier 2, they have small group tutoring acceleration academies that are available to them based on standards or social emotional needs that they may have that will occur in the spring and the summer. But you may be in tier 3. In tier 3, you're getting high dose tutoring. That may be one-to-one. That's very specific to some math skills you need support in or literacy skills that you need support in. So this differentiated and customized approach to student needs is how we are addressing recovery over the spring and summer. And we're also asking schools, and part of this multi-tier system of support is not only looking at academic needs, but also looking at other needs, so schools can stand up other activities for students over the summer. And for some of our students, that's just a play date. That's a student having ability to interact with another young person. We think all of that is so critical. And then a part of it could be extracurriculars, resurrecting the art club or the drum line or the step team, those things that students needed to feel connected to school, but also help them with their mental health as well.
And so if parents want to have their students enrolled in one of the Acceleration Academies, what is the process for that? Where should they be looking for more information?
So everything is on our DCPS Reopen Strong website. So we have the menu of options that families can sign up for summer activity. We also have very specific invitations to students based on their need that will come directly from the school to the family. So families should be on the lookout for that. And then we are partnered also with our Department of Parks and Recreation to offer just basic fun and sun activity. So our pools are back open, our gyms are back open. So we want students to be active and moving around. And so families can also get more information on the DCPS Reopen Strong site as well for that.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ferebee. Thank you for that information. Ms. Moore, thank you as well. I absolutely had to include a Black business in this. So where can we find out more information about Wise Teachings?
Yes, Wise Teachings, you can find us on Facebook at Wise Teachings Education Program, on our Instagram at Wise Teachings. We also have our website, wiseteachings.com, where you can schedule for tutoring and homeschool support in the home. And we just kicked off a new thing, Wise Kids, which is where we are bringing interactive learning and the world to you. And we've been doing things like traveling to different museums and things, and recording videos and speaking with people who can put a twist on learning, kind of bring fun into learning and bring fun into going to a museum or art show or a music program, and just introducing it to children who normally don't have access to it. But you can find us on Wise Teachings, and I hope to see some of you there. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, and I appreciate everyone on this call. Thank you so much. Mr. Phalen, we're coming to you last. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to help our parents with as far as what they can be doing to recover?
If anybody wants to come to our summer learning programs, and now we're in multiple states, Texas, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Alabama, and we just partnered with a school down in Washington, D.C., because I couldn't stay away from Dr. Ferebee any longer. And so if you want to come to one of our schools and learn about our school program, it's PhalenAcademies.org. and you can find us there. If you want to learn about our summer program, it's Summer Advantage, all one word, summeradvantage.org. And we now just kicked off, to Dr. Ferebee's comment, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, we decided we needed to elevate our work. And so we kicked off PLA University. So you can find it at the website PLA University, and that's a free workforce development program for any relative of a PLA scholar. And so whether you're big brother or sister, aunt to uncle, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, come through about 6 weeks of soft skill training, come through about 6 weeks to 3 months, depending on what track you choose, of a credential program. And then you come out at the end with a job, $30,000 to $55,000 a year plus benefits. And we're trying to get 2 or more family members to do it together, so they'll have, our families will have economic strength, so that the scholars will be served by our parents, obviously being in a better economic place.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for having this type of programming. Everyone, Mr. Phalen, Dr. Ferebee, Ms. Moore, we absolutely need you all in our community, and I think our readership absolutely benefited from these tips today. Please follow the Word in Black series. You can check out more on afro.com, and you can also follow us on Facebook. Thank you.